Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. We apologize for starting late. We had some technical difficulties, and that's why we're just starting out. So we welcome you, though. As you join, please don't forget to like the channel, subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who you think will benefit. We're talking about silence this evening. Do you want to say hello, Natalia?
Hi everyone, lovely to have you all here again. I'm really looking forward to this evening, just discussing silence.
I just thought that we should reintroduce ourselves for the people who are going to be here for the first time and don't know who we are.
Okay,
Do
so
you want to
I'm
go first?
Natalia. Yeah, sorry. I'm Natalia. I'm a and I run a ministry called Christ Therapy, where basically it's a space that comes into churches and other places where I facilitate groups in healing from depression, anxiety, mummy burnout, and the list goes on. I also do one-to-one counseling as well, and I'm just really passionate about people, and like I've just got a burden to just help as many people as possible through my own life experiences and my skills.
And Natalia works with young people as well, which I think is invaluable because we don't know a lot of people who works with young people, and that's so special. For those who are new, my name is Joanna Daniel. I'm the founder of Wounds to Scars, and we work with adult survivors of childhood trauma and women who experience abuse. That's in the ministry. In my counseling practice, though, I mostly work with trauma, but I work with anybody, but I work with adults only. So that's a little bit about us. My website is woundstoscars.com, and Natalia's is Christ Therapy.
Yeah, that's right.
.com, Natalia?
That's right. Yeah.
ChristTherapy.com. So that's where you can find us and learn some more about us and the work that we do. So tonight, as Natalia said, we're going to talk about silence. How did you feel about the topic, Natalia, when I sent it? The silence, talking about silence.
I'm aware of that, Joanna. I was just seeing how you felt about silence.
Because initially I thought, talk about feelings. I was just sharing the video. Talk about feelings. Let's talk about how to sit with feelings, how to sit with feelings that for people and not fix how they feel. And I don't know many people who can sit with somebody's feelings and not fix how they feel, not fix how our children feel and tell them how they should feel, as opposed to just listening in those moments, just listening and let them feel how they feel and be with how they feel. That takes the Holy Spirit. It takes training. It takes practice. It takes emotional intelligence. That's being intelligent to our own emotion to be able to do that. But before we go into Job and what we learned from that, I wanted to. I remember the story this evening. It's going to be in the Come See a Man devotional that we wrote, and that story was around silence, but it wasn't positive silence, because I believe silence can be negative and positive. And I experienced a silence that was, and I experience this all the time, I find, and maybe people can relate to it. Maybe you can tell us in the chat your experience of silence. Welcome to those who are joining. We just had a miscarriage. No, we hadn't had a miscarriage yet. The twins were 3, and we were pregnant again. And I showed early, and so it was fine, doesn't matter. And 2 women came up to me and said, one of them said, "You're pregnant," and I said, "Yes, I am." They said, "We knew it. We knew you were pregnant." And they weren't really excited, just was kind of confirming that I was. We had a chat about it. And then a couple of weeks later, we had a miscarriage, which was really painful. And then there was silence, nothing from these women. And that silence hurt so much because they were so interested to hear in my pregnancy story or just confirming for themselves, because they were talking among themselves that I was pregnant. And then when I had the miscarriage, silence. That was painful silence for me, because it spoke so much. It said lack of community. It says we don't care. It says you're on your own. It says, so what? It says, in the absence of data, as Brene Brown says, we tell ourselves stories. In that silence, there's so many things that I had to work through in that. Yeah, that wasn't pleasant silence. What's been your experience of silence before we go into Job?
I would say that silence, when you just said that, like, it can be a bad thing or a good thing. I was more focusing on the good things of silence, and from my experience. I guess I'll have to have a little think about the silence as, like the absence kind of thing as well. But I'll go into the good sign of silence. I feel like silence is where my healing really took place, in terms of not people coming in with their 2 pence and coming in with what I should do and what I shouldn't do. I feel like growing up, like in my environment, in my family, it would always be like solution focused, like, right, if this is a problem, do this. It's like you didn't have that space of silence to be able to process what's happening. Yeah. So to me, I feel like it takes a lot of skill. It's something that you have to get used to. And you know what I just did to you, Joanna? You know, when I literally stayed silent when you said that, I was just what my supervisor did to me, because we was literally just speaking about silence just last week in supervision. And as we started, he just stopped. He didn't say anything, and he just looked me in the face. But I think he was trying to work out how I felt about silence. And I think that's important, to work out what it is for you. And I've grown to see the goodness in it, but I do think that communication is key. So if you are going to have that silence, give that person that silence, it's nice to check in with them as well. Like, I can see you're not really saying anything. How are you? How are you feeling? Is there anything that I can help you with? So that's kind of like going into a bit of the tools that we was talking about, how we can help, like how silence can be healing in our communities.
Yes. So it's as you mentioned. So there are two things you spoke about. So for you, because you grew up in an environment that was solution focused, when you were healing, you didn't really want solutions. You wanted silence worked for you because you wanted understanding. And I just shared a story where I needed silence. I didn't want silence. I wanted empathy. Yes. I wanted connection, and that was absent. And so I think, which one do you see happening in church more? And I wonder which one our listeners experience more. Which one would they like?
That's interesting, Joanna. I'll wait to see if there's any comments, but as you say that, I'm just thinking, like, a lot of times there is awkward silence.
Yeah.
So it's like something's happened, or people are aware. Like, for instance, sorry to keep going back onto it, but I did a video on my YouTube channel on Christ Therapy, and I told a story about my depression at that time. Yeah. I did it on my Instagram, and a lot of people seen it. A lot of people, because it was this ministry that I just started, and I've just gone in the camera, just very raw with my children, and I just started just talking about how I felt. And a lot of people seen it, but a few people that I didn't expect, they reached out and said, wow, thank you for sharing that. I can really relate to it. But then a lot of people that were dear to me, very close, didn't say nothing. Pure silence.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they was thinking. It's like you start to make conclusions in your head, like, oh, they must be thinking this, they must be thinking that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's awkward, isn't it? That silence, when there's silence with undertones, I call it. So there's the silence with, there's a lot of stuff that's not been said, but we can all feel it, but nobody is brave enough to say it. That kind of silence, the undertones. And I think that silence, especially when there's a loss of any kind, when there's trauma, when we know something is happening, it can be hurtful. When that silence happens, sometimes we're silent because we don't know what to say, so we don't say anything, and it's always what we're saying, it's important to check in with the people to say, what would you like me to do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do. What would you like? I think people would really appreciate that.
Definitely. Definitely. Sorry, Joanna, I don't know if I'm able to ask you this, but you know, with those ladies at church on that occasion with you, what do you think would have been beneficial for you, for them? Like, what would have helped for you at that time?
Definitely not silence. Or if the silence would be empathy first and then silence, like, Joe, we know what happened. We're so sorry. And we sit together. You know, so even if after that nothing else came, that would have been fine. Just an acknowledgement, because they were so interested in the pregnancy before, and now there's this miscarriage, and I'm in grief, and you know, so just like, we're really sorry, we're really sorry about that, and then let's sit together and have a drink. We don't have to say anything else after that. You know, so it's just when somebody knows that you're present, you're there, you're connecting, you're empathetic, those kind of things. You don't have to sometimes say it with words, and that's when silence becomes really effective. When I know that you're here with me, and if there's a pause for 10 seconds or a minute or two, we're comfortable, because I know that I don't have to say it. Natalie just got it. Natalie gets it, because she has the potential to be empathetic. So that's how important that is.
Yeah. So almost feeling like almost communicating without communicating. Do you think that?
Yes, that kind, and I think a lot of people would really benefit from that. That type of silence, not just awkward when there's lots of unspoken words, but the one that says, I'm here with you. Gosh, this is hard. I'm coming in agreement with you that this is hard.
Yeah.
And I don't have any words, but I just want you to know that I'm here, and let's just sit here. That kind. When we read Job chapter 2, and when Job's friends heard about his losses, they made an appointment to go see him. When they saw him from afar off, they sackcloth and ashes, sprinkled dust on themselves, and they wept. They wept with him, and then they sat in silence for 7 days. That really, really impacted me. I'm like, whoa, 7 days, they just sat there. 7 days, the Bible said. Not a word. Anybody spoke. They were just, I imagine they were feeling deep empathy for Job. I mean, when they did speak, they shouldn't have, but you know, I imagine that they were feeling deep empathy for and with Job. And I can imagine the community and the care that he must have felt in that time when they just sat with him, no talking.
Yeah, and it sounds like there was literally like walking with him. I know there wasn't walking, but it's like they was just going with him. So Job's weeping, I'm weeping. Job's not saying nothing, I'm not saying anything. But Job knows I'm here. And I think that's what I picked up from it. It was just, they was literally there.
Yes.
They didn't say anything, but their presence, I feel like that really gave Job some time to really think and really explore like how he felt and really heal through those painful emotions. And he did, like afterwards, Joanna, I'll have to bring up the that chapter. But afterwards he started saying like, Lord, why was I even born? Like it's a dark, the clouds are here. It's like he almost sounded suicidal, not like he was going to kill himself. Like why questioning, like why was I even born? And I felt like the realness that was, you know, just that 7 days of just time to really think, but have support there without jumping in, just undistracted time to just really process.
No sound bites, like all things work together for good, it's going to be okay, God is going to restore. None of those kind of sound bites. And I think we use them to comfort ourselves, not necessarily the people, because we don't know what people need if we don't ask them. Like, what would you need at this time? If we don't ask them, we don't know what they need. So we shouldn't give sound bites like all things work together for good. There's going to be a testimony. All the things that we say that makes us comfortable.
Yeah, and even though it can come from a good place. Majority of the time, people.
I don't think it comes from a bad place. Yeah. I don't think it comes from a bad place, but it doesn't do what it needs to do. And I think we do it because we're uncomfortable. Like if you experience a loss and I came to see you and I never said anything, can I manage the discomfort if I never said anything? Like, can I just go see Natalia and just sit there and not say a word? So we think we go with a lot of words versus questions. How are you? What would you like from me? What would you like me to do? So we either do that or we send the text message that says, thinking of you, really praying for you and family. Lovely. But we don't go, physically like Job's family. And maybe we can't go physically because of what's going on for us and in our lives. But, when we do, or in our church communities, I wonder, how do you think silence could work positively, like in our church community when something tragic or something traumatic somebody's experiencing? Somebody's dealing with a crisis. There's some disclosure. How do you think silence might work for those who are listening or in church communities or in leadership? How do you think silence could work as a healing tool?
As I was saying, Joanna, at the beginning, I feel like silence is a skill and it's something that has to be learned. For me personally, it's like I said, it's not like a normal thing. I think it's almost like a trained thing. Like you've got to train yourself to be aware of, this isn't about me, it's about this person. And what can I do to help them? Yeah. Without helping them in a without trying to help, if that makes any sense. So you're praying for them that God will help them, but you're not using your own wisdom to help them. You're asking them, what can I help you with? But I feel like it would be great if we could pick up these kind of skills, especially in church, because church is that place of refuge. It should be like our Father's house where we can go and we can weep and we can mourn, or we can be however we are, whatever raw emotion we've got, we should be able to have that space. But unfortunately, people aren't skilled. They don't know about this. I think it's good to have these kind of conversations to really get the mind thinking, and maybe even, start doing some kind of like talks in churches and training for people, because how are you supposed to know? How are you supposed to know this, really?
Yeah. That's something I learned. You don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, I like to say. And so people might need it and you don't know how to give it. So that's why it's important, as you said, that we're having this conversation. One of the key things you said, Natalia, that I want to pick up on before I share is that you said it's not about me. When somebody is speaking, it's not about me. So my silence, as you're listening to somebody, your silence is so crucial, and it sends a positive message to the person who is talking. And that is where we have to learn how to be silent as well and be fully present. I remember when I was learning that was difficult. Like, you have to be silent, but you can't be planning the shopping list. You can't be thinking of what's for supper. You can't be wondering about the children. You can't be doing anything other than being there with the person. So one of the things that we could do is, while they're talking, pray. Just pray about what they're saying.
Yes.
Like they're saying, and it was so hard this week. I had a really tough week. As you're listening, without rushing and say, but God is good, see you're alive and you're here today. Don't say anything, because as you're listening, it's about the person. So you're listening and you say, God, Joanna had a really hard week. It's really difficult. She's not saying exactly why, but as I'm listening, help me to hear and tell me how I can help. So that's what we do when somebody's talking, so they know that we're hearing. We're hearing them. If they pause in their talk, this is where silence comes in, and it's really effective. You sit You still maintain your eye contact, you're nodding, so they know that you're digesting what they've said. If they don't continue, you can ask a question then, just to clarify. Sounds like your week was really difficult, Joanna. Yes, it was difficult. It was. You know, you don't have to tell me why, but if you want to tell me why, I can listen. If you don't want to tell me why, do you want us to just pray about it now? See, I never told Joanna that she shouldn't feel that way, that God is good. She knows, but she's still at a difficult week. I listened. I was silent as she spoke. And sometimes when we sit like that, Natalia, and be silent, it gives the person who is talking room to go, oh, I'm being heard. It's this transfer of empathy that comes, that is so soothing, and a place that it tells me that I can go talk to Natalia because she'll listen. She'll listen to me, and she doesn't tell me how to feel. It's the most frustrating thing when you're telling people things and they go, oh, but God says, or God is good, or we know, but we still have challenges that we have to talk through.
Definitely. That soothing thing. It is really soothing to know that somebody's genuinely listening to you, because a lot of times we are listening, but we're listening to respond. We're not really listening. And another thing, you know, when you're saying as well, Joanna, like if you are sitting down in silence, don't be planning your shopping list, don't be thinking about other things. If you're doing that, then you're going to miss the cues of what the person's saying. So sometimes they can say things and you can pick up on what they're saying, like the emotion that is attached to whatever they're saying. So that's a good way to reflect back as well. But if you're kind of caught up in other stuff, it's like you can pick up when someone's not really listening to you as well.
Oh, yes.
You can feel it. You know when someone's present.
Yeah, you do. It's kind of like a wall. Like they're not hearing a word I just said. They're not hearing it. Yeah, you feel it. I wonder what our listeners, what their experience of silence is. What do they want when they share with people? What have they experienced when they've shared? How does it feel when somebody fixed how you feel? But it's you don't feel like you were heard. And something I have to add, Natalia, that sometimes we think silence and listening mean I have to agree. It doesn't mean you have to agree.
That's true. That is true.
You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with what they're saying, what they've been through, or their perspective on what they've been through. You don't have to agree.
I've noticed that though, Joanna, you know, especially working with young people, a lot of times they can be, you know, like it's almost like a bit of freedom, like, wow, like I've got this space where I can talk without somebody, you know, like onto me. It's like I can start to like untangle like my thoughts and start making sense of things. And like you say, you don't have to agree with what people are saying, but it's that allowing that space for people to, you know, have their own autonomy to work out things for themselves. But you support them while they do that, you know, facilitate them. So it's true, you don't have to agree, even with your loved ones. If you know, like with your children as well, just speaking with them, you don't have to agree. But as a parent, if you can really show them that you're present and that you can show them that you love them and that you care about them just by not saying anything sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is powerful. I'm really glad you mentioned that, because in parenting, this works really well when, you know, when you want your children to know that I'm here with you. You might not agree with what they are doing or even agree or feel they should be feeling what they're feeling, but they are feeling what they're feeling. And silence is really, especially when they're upset, silence helps you regulate with somebody who's crying and really overwhelmed with emotion. Silence helps in that respect, because we're not giving them a tissue. I don't agree with giving a tissue. Just let people cry, because a tissue means stop now. I can't cope with your tears. Just leave them. The tissue can be nearby, but just leave them to cry. One day, my sons were playing football, and one came in the house really upset and crying. And I thought, oh, what's wrong? What happened? I immediately in my head thought, one hurt the other one. What happened? So I went in, he went in his bedroom, sat on his bed, and he cried big tears. And I sat beside him. I didn't say anything. I didn't hug him or anything. I didn't think he wanted to be touched. So I just sat beside him until he wept for about a minute. And then I said, what can I do? And he says, I'm just frustrated because I couldn't score. And then he left it and then he left it back out to try to go score. So I used silence then by just sitting there. I just sat there and let him weep. Sometimes we use silence by just sitting and let them talk, not fix how they feel, not fix what they're saying, not doing anything, but just listening and let them know that we're here. I'm hearing you, not on my phone, not thinking about anything. I'm not telling them what God says. I'm just here. And this is a space that you can come talk.
Yeah, definitely. You know, while you were saying that, I was thinking, gosh, we're all so different. And I feel like whoever this person is, or like if it's you, that's, you're going through something, or if you're helping someone, I feel like it's good to have that communication with them to understand what their needs are. So maybe it might be worth having these kind of conversations before certain things happen in life. So with you, when you said with your son, because you know your son, you knew, I'm not to give him any tissues right now. I'm not to run and hug him right now, because you know him. You understand his love language, what he needs. But as you were saying that, I was thinking, if that was me, I would have wanted a hug. I would have wanted tissues. But it just goes to show,
but I think that was the Holy Spirit. And I experienced the Holy Spirit so much in situations like that, especially with the children, and being able to connect really quickly and to understand. I think the Holy Spirit is ever present. So I believe that was him. Because my natural mommy wants to go hug and hold and squeeze.
Yeah.
But I just sensed that time wasn't a good time to do it. Don't touch. Just sit beside and be here. Just be present and quiet and calm. I think that was the Holy Spirit. I cannot take credit for it. And so many times he shows up when I need to give what is needed. And so that's why we can depend on him to tell us as well in those moments.
Amen. The scripture that comes to mind is be still and know that I am God.
Yes.
Sometimes we just, want to just run to rescue, defend, get our capes on and save the day. And it's not our job.
No. And it's not always what's required. So once we're going to ask, what I want to share with people is that when somebody's upset, they're not rational. They're not in the thinking brain. So they might not be able to answer you at that time about what they need. So that's why it's important at those times to just be still and listen.
Yeah.
And just be there and wait. So patience is going to be required. And that's when we don't speak, because the person, they can't answer the questions that you're asking because they're upset. And when somebody's upset, they're in the emotional brain. They're not thinking straight. The thinking brain is offline for all of us. So that's why it was important for me to wait it out till the frustration subsided, so he could tell me, because he couldn't tell me when he was frustrated.
Yeah.
Sometimes our children get in trouble when we want to talk to them when they're upset, even if we're the cause of the upset. Tell me what's wrong. Talk to me. But they can't. Nobody can talk to you when they're upset. When, whatever, if they're angry, if they're sad, if they're crying, if there's frustration and agitation, just be quiet, be silent, and wait it out until that calm down. So you can be praying while you're silent for them. And when they've calmed down, then they're able to tell you, because that's when the thinking brain comes back online. Or you can take deep, steady breath while you're waiting.
Yeah.
You are breathing in and out calmly. Sometimes you might say, okay, take a deep breath. If you notice that the upset is way overwhelming, or, you're worried or you're concerned, you can say, okay, in a calm voice, you can say, okay, let's take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. You can see that you're upset. Just breathe with me. Just breathe with me and relax. And that can help to calm them so that they can tell you what they need from you. So that's some way to use that time. Hey, Michaela, she said the virtual world makes silence worse. Tell us more about that. The virtual world makes silence worse. She said.
When she says that, you know what comes to mind for me? It comes to mind with like likes. You know, like if you post something, or like if you share something.
Right.
Sometimes you could share a piece of you that's personal, and then there's just silence. Like there's no. Sometimes you're actually reaching out for help. Wow, when sometimes you have people on Facebook that are writing down certain things. It's a cry for help sometimes, and it is
indeed. Yeah.
Just there's no acknowledgement. There's people kind of
Yeah. What I will say is, reach out to somebody personally. Don't type it on social media if you want help, because one, not everybody on your timeline sees what's posted straight away. Two, somebody might like it, but they have not read it. And somebody who really cares and have the skills to help you might see it 3 days later when it's very late for you. So if you're struggling and there's something that you need help with, it's really important that you call someone, ring someone, phone someone, direct message someone, do that kind of reaching out, because they might not see it if it's posted on your timeline. Well, what do you mean by the virtual world makes silence worse, Michaela? Were you talking in that respect as well, when you post something and nobody comments or see? Probably makes silence uncomfortable. Like we want to do silence here, but we can't. We're doing live stream, so we have to talk.
Yeah. You know what as well, Jonah? Just while Michaela's responding, sometimes it can be, in social media, from my experience, like working with young people as well, they can post certain songs. Yeah. So sometimes it could be a song, and it's like the song is telling a story, but with social media, it's like it's not personal. It's in terms of like it's not that one-to-one. It's like it's you being personal, but there's a load of people, so sometimes you're not going to pick up on certain things because it's not that one-to-one relationship. It's like it's just kind of out there. That's what comes to my mind anyway. Sometimes people can use music as a way of communicating, and it kind of gets ignored or posts at the right, like you say. You may not have even read the post. You may not have seen the post. So yeah, I'm just wondering, there's a few people watching it. What's everyone else's thoughts on this? I feel like this is a good thing to look at, like social media.
Yeah. Social media is a big one, isn't it? That silence communicates things that also influence young people's self-esteem. When a picture is posted and nobody says anything, and you expect all your friends to like it and all your friends to comment, and they say nothing, and you're dependent. That's why if you're a young person listening, or if you're supporting young people in church, or indeed in your job, that it's important to help them to understand the connection with that and their sense of self, and not to help them to remove the validation that they require from people on social media, because that can be really hurtful. That kind of, nobody likes my photo, nobody commented, nobody said anything. But the next person's photo is like, oh wow, fire, all of these things, and then they're thinking, well,
Joanna, look at you. You're up to date, aren't you, about fire?
I have teenagers, okay.
So, you know the lingo.
I have teenagers.
Yes, so, you
do. Yeah, so those things can be really hurtful. So our sense of self can't be dependent on those things, because when there's silence, that hurts. That kind of silence can really hurt.
Yeah.
Right. So there are times when silence is good and times when we need to ask. We have to ask. There's one thing I wanted to add, Natalia, as we're talking about silence and giving people tools, is empathetic listening, because silence is empathetic. And anybody who has ever watched my videos know I love silence. Silence is my favorite thing to do. Being silent, no music, no nothing, just me alone with my thoughts. I love it. Absolutely. Because I think it gives me capacity to be able to listen. And one of my favorite quotes says by one of my favorite authors, Ellen G. White, says, "When every other voice is hushed and in quietness we wait before him, the silence of the soul makes more distinct the voice of God." So then it tells me that I need to learn how to, when I go in prayer, I need to learn how to be silent. I'm not planning the shopping. I'm not going down the road. I'm not making a list. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm fully there, not talking to him either, but just listening to what else he has to say to me. And as Abaka says, and what I shall answer when I'm reproved. So we have to, there's silence that benefits us in so many areas in our lives, in our spiritual life, in community and relationship building. In all of those places, silence is extremely effective.
It is.
So empathetic listening is our ability to share and understand how someone feels. Not that I know how that feels. I know how you feel, because you don't know how somebody feels unless they tell you. You don't know. Even if you've experienced similar things or the same thing, you don't know how they feel. But it's your ability to understand how they feel. So when I say I'm really angry, you can understand that anger. And that is like, I understand you're angry. That I feel angry as you shared that story. Yeah, you sound angry. I understand how that could make you angry. That would make me angry. That kind of ability to, and once again, you don't have to agree, but you feel okay. You feel that you feel the other person.
Yeah.
So it's paying special attention to how someone feels, like putting yourself in their shoes, kind of.
Yeah. I was going to say something as well, Joanna. This is a good little thing for you guys to think of as well, what I like to think of. You kind of like take your feelings, whatever you're feeling, towards what they're saying, and you get this invisible bag, and you just pop your feelings into that bag and just push that to the side, and you literally just all ears, all eyes. You're just praying and you're listening to them, and it's about them. It's not about you.
No,
that really help you to really use the gift of empathy when you're listening to people.
Yeah,
and the more you do it, the easier it gets,
Yeah, and we practice it. So this is maybe something you can pray through, like, Lord, I'm not a good listener. Help me to be a good listener. Help me to use silence and to be a good listener. Michaela said, okay, so from what I'm understanding, Michaela said the virtual world makes silence worse. Maybe when you're on a Zoom meeting or you're in a meeting and you share and nobody responds. Yeah, that can be, you can feel alone when there's silence. I understand that, Michaela. It's not easy, that one, especially when what you share makes not make what you share don't make people uncomfortable, but you can sense that people are uncomfortable based on what you've shared. Yeah, especially if you bring something personal in the room and you said, this will happen to me, or I understand it this way, and silence. And everybody's Zoom screen is off. It's just you. Yeah. That can be hard. That can be hard. What do you think about silence, Natalia, in managing conflict? If if there is something to work through, but the next person is being silent. Is it the same?
So the scenario is that that there's some kind of conflict, argument, but the person is silent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like that could go two ways. I feel like it could be a good thing. I feel like that could be good, because then it shows that they're kind of processing something and they're being careful with how they respond. But then it could be also another thing where I could be potentially scared because it's a bit unpredictable. You don't know if they're just going to just burst out of, I don't know, like they might switch. So to me, I feel like it's a two-way, it could go two ways depending on who the person is. But for me, depending on who it is. But for me, anyone who's close to me, if I express something and it got a bit heated, I would be happy to know that they've stayed silent a little bit, because then it shows that they're using their emotional intelligence to think how they're going to respond. So I like the sound of that, because I'm not used to that. I'm used to just, if there's any kind of conflict, you bring conflict, they get louder, you get louder, and it's like just a lot of loudness. I grew up in a lot of, I've got a very loud family, so we're not silent people, So to me,
so it makes it harder.
I appreciate it.
Okay, right. I was thinking also of the person who is avoidant, and so they use silence as sometimes silence as punishment. Some people use it as punishment. I'm not talking to you. That's not good silence. Or an avoidant. I'm afraid of conflict. I just don't want to. I'm going to be silent because I'm afraid if I say anything, then we're going to have an argument, and I don't want to have. So the avoidant, as opposed to.
Okay.
So those are some other ways.
So Joanna, let me just become the avoidance type. Yeah, on how you could maybe work through that with someone. So a tool that I like to use is just basically just being authentic. So you can't control how somebody else responds or how they act, but you can control how you act. But I do believe that it needs to be in a place of you're in a healthy mind state to be able to deal with this. So if you're having some kind of conflict and that person is using silence as a weapon to kind of discourage you or make you feel small, or I don't know, it could be like a narcissist. It depends. But I'm just saying, if they're using that as a weapon, silence as a weapon, I think it's good for me personally, for me to be authentic, as in, I can see that you're not saying anything. However, I've said this. Please, can you say what your response is? Can you share something? I feel uncomfortable with your silence right now. I believe that you should be accountable for what's happened. I feel accountable for this. What are you accountable for? I don't know. I would like to challenge it, me personally. But I don't want to put that out there for people to do. Don't necessarily try this at home. But I'm just sharing my own personal thing.
Don't try.
I think it takes a lot of tact and skill as well, and you need to be in that healthy place to do that. Yeah.
To say how you're feeling, and because sometimes saying how you feel can be a weapon that the next person will use. So don't try vulnerability if it's not safe. It must be safe enough for you to find for you to be vulnerable in any setting, home, church, with your friends, anywhere. It is important for you to do that. Thank you for that, Natalia, because so many people, sometimes we're avoidant because we are avoiding conflict. Sometimes we're avoidant because of our attachment pattern. That makes it difficult for us we get overwhelmed and we just need a moment. We go silent, we shut down, we're not talking, we can't express ourselves. Sometimes we're silent because we're not used to communicating in healthy ways, and we don't know how to do it. And that might be, I feel at loss. I feel unable. I don't know what to say. I feel ashamed. There's so many things that can be going on for you. So after today, maybe something to do is journal, like how do I feel when I'm silent, and how do I use it, and is it beneficial to other people? How does it help my relationships? Does it make them function better, or I hope this will help you to see yourself in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Simone said, the rescue in me sometimes finds silence difficult.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be hard for somebody who wants to rescue.
Yeah.
I'm a recovering rescuer. That's why I said, that's how I call myself, Simone. A recovering rescuer. Sometimes I have to say, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, don't say nothing. Breathe, breathe, breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not yours to fix. Don't fix it. Don't fix it. Sometimes I have to do that.
Joanna, you know, when you mentioned one other thing, you said about the silent person who doesn't like conflict. Was that what you said?
Yeah.
Avoidant. The avoidant. For anyone who experiences that, I would say try and like do some work on yourself. You know, when you're saying with the journaling, to really explore that and find out where does that come from, because a lot of times it does come in childhood where you didn't really have a voice, where it wasn't safe for you to speak, and a lot of times there's definitely something under that.
Yes, there is. Oftentimes there is, and some, as you said, it's family of origin issues often.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in that setting where you didn't have a voice and you weren't allowed one. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because people need to know, like, we need to understand ourselves. Makala said sometimes they're dismissive in conflict. Yeah. Ooh. That one can be tricky, isn't it? When somebody's dismissive in a conflict, when the dismissive using silence, because sometimes silence is used in so many different ways. We're talking about it being used in a positive way, in a therapeutic way, in helping communities to heal, in making your church function better, in enhancing your relationships. That's the way we want you to use it. But we also wanted to talk about the other side of silence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but people can be dismissive in a conflict by, I'm not talking about it, don't want to know, or just dismiss, not answering your calls, not responding to your messages, just go silent. They're avoidant, Michaela. The people who dismiss it in a conflict is that they're avoidant. And it's the same reason Natalia and I are just talking about. Sometimes it is because they are conflict avoidant, because they are afraid, but they will project their fear as aggression. It might look as aggression, and it might influence feelings for you of maybe shame or anger even, or trying to communicate that something is wrong with you, but nothing's wrong with you. That's their way of avoiding dealing with the issue. But that's how they're using it. Naomi says, which can be harmful for the speaker. Silence in conflict can also be received as blanking or ignoring. Absolutely, Naomi, I agree. It can be used. Some people use it very unhealthily. When any relationship where silence in conflict is happening, the people are avoidant. Oftentimes there's unhealthy communication pattern in that relationship. So somebody needs some help around, why do I do that? Why do I go quiet? Why can't I talk about how I feel? Why can't I listen to how the other person feels? What's happening for me? Lots of self-reflection. Thank you. I like when you talk to us. Anything else?
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you want to add? I was going to say, Michaela, Natalia.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't know, this is why I think it's good to really think about these things, because there's so much stuff coming up. Like you said, like looking at it, like silence has got a lot of different angles, and it's about just understanding for yourself. But I don't know, like the empathy in me, or the rescuer in me, or whatever it is. I don't know, like if you are one of these people that do avoid, like if you are the avoidant, or you are kind of fearful to, speak up or have your say, I don't know, I just kind of just want to encourage you to do that work on yourself. So go into therapy, journal, have that time, pray, have that time to really just process and think about what that is and where it comes from. Because a lot of times in your relationships, it just keeps coming back. It comes in many different relationships. conflict and all sorts, and it can affect your self-esteem as well. Like you don't really believe in yourself. You don't have that confidence.
Yes, that's true. As you were talking, another type of silence came up, when it's best to be silent. If you know that you're dealing with somebody with narcissistic personality trait, then
Run.
run, run fast, right? But silence then is golden. You do not be vulnerable. Anything you say will be used against you. When you speak, they'll gaslight. So that's the time when, and you're not conflict avoidant. You're realizing that any conflict with this person is never going to be resolved, because it's never going to be about honesty or truth or finding solutions. It's going to be about them being right. So if you know somebody with that type of pattern, then they always have to be right. They can't take responsibility for their actions. They will not admit to being wrong or to have done anything wrong. Just know that you may have hit yourself against that wall for years. Just know that, don't keep trying, as Natalie says, run far and fast. That might not always be easy to do, but get help and support for yourself, because the conflict is not going to be resolved, because they would need to do a lot of work and change in order for that to work.
Definitely.
Makayla says silence can make you feel no one cares. You know, Makayla, that is so true. And I learned that last week again. And even though I know I care and they know I care too, they were like, nobody cares. And I'm like, what? Of course people care. But sometimes we need to show that we care, to communicate to people that we care. Because I can know that you can know that I care about you and you're going through something, but I never say it. I never check in with you. I never come to see you. I never hold your hand. I never go for a walk with you. I never do any of those things. And so then you don't know I care. So yeah, silence can really communicate that. And I learned that. And that was a teachable moment for me, that, okay, you care, Joanna, you do all these things, but you need to say it. You need to say it more. You need to communicate it more. You need to do more you need to be more, ask God to open your eyes more, so that you can see when the dip is happening and you can go in at that time. So yeah, it can really communicate that, and it is hurtful.
Yeah, Joanna, when you were saying that, I was just going to say as well, I guess it's about anyone close to you that you genuinely do want support from. I think it's just so important that you communicate, right? Because everybody is different. Some people, like you, Joanna, you might enjoy silence, as in, like, you know, I'm okay. Are you okay? I'm here, and that's it. Some people might want you to literally like come round and sit down with them. Some people might, sometimes people can be like, you know, I'm here for you, I'm praying for you, but it's not enough. But it's like, unless you communicate
at my house.
Yes. So you have to communicate, and then you can go from there, because sometimes in silence you can come to your own conclusions, like we were saying, because you haven't communicated with people. They're none the wiser. They think they're doing the best thing for you, like by giving you space, but you might not have wanted that space. You might have actually wanted something. So I think we can't stress enough on the communication factor. If you can, if you're able, just communicate with those around you, so they know what you need at that time.
Yeah. Silence can be used as protection. That's true. That's true.
In what?
Karen, sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say, if you're, I'm thinking of, you know, I work a lot with women who experience abuse, and in that case, silence definitely is protection, because anything you say will be used against you. You'll be gaslighted and things projected onto you and your words twisted. So silence is definitely a protection in those instances. If you're in any kind of unhealthy setting, if you're in any kind of unhealthy relational dynamic, and it doesn't have to be in romantic relationships, in like a boyfriend or a husband. It can be at work, it can be at church, it can be in your friendships, at school, at college, university. If you recognize this pattern in somebody, where they, every time you speak or when anybody speaks, this is how they are, then silence is your best. It's your safest place in that. And you need to remove yourself from those relationships. Yeah. If it's safe enough to point it out, to feed back to the person how you receive them, if they're safe, then do that. But if not, get to safety. NPD is scary and confusing to deal with. What's NPD, Jay? I'm not sure what that is. Narcissistic personality disorder. Right, narcissistic personality. I'm assuming that you're right. It is confusing to deal with, and the best strategy is silence. So it's the best strategy when it's never safe to deal with somebody with the narcissist. And I don't like to use the term so much because we use it so much now, and so we want to define and describe what it is so people can understand. Somebody who don't take responsibility, and I won't be able to go into detail. Lots of videos are on this channel about that. But you will never be able to out-talk, outsmart, outmaneuver, get them to think, get them to reason, get them to have understanding and empathy. You can't talk them into it at all. So that one, two people can help them, God and their therapist. You take a back seat and let those two do the work. That's the safest. That's the safest thing that I'd say about that. They need a good therapist who can understand that, and they need God desperately. Brother Lewis have a question. He said, do you guys think God purposely allow you to be disappointed with others in order for him to get your attention, i.e. human silence opens your ears to hear his voice? No. Is my answer to that. I think people just, no. I mean, we go to God. Well, not in my case, but just no, because I don't want to spiritualize it, Lewis. I don't want to spiritualize people's lack of empathy and understanding and people's lack of awareness and people's busy, because people are so busy with their lives and we're not in touch with each other, and we're not stopping long enough to connect and to see that somebody's in need and to be there with our fellow human in need. And so telling myself this would be putting a band-aid on it, as Makala said, we put band-aid on things. And so no, it wouldn't work. Did he help me though? Yes, he did. Was I able to hear him after I settled into the fact that nobody's coming? Nobody's coming, and it's just I have to deal with this thing. Yes, he is, but I believe we are his hands and we're his feet, and he wants to help use us to go listen to, go sit in silence with somebody and help them. So I cannot say yes to that, because it would feel like spiritualizing it. Does he allow people to disappoint you so we could hear him? Right. What do you think, Natalia?
I think this is the therapy room, and that is for yeah. I feel like this is the therapy room. Everyone's entitled to questions.
Sure.
We don't want to, be controversial in any way.
No.
So yeah.
No. I mean, I mean, so I'm answering for myself personally. Did I believe that? No, I don't believe that God did that. It would mean that God is hurting me purposely, and I can't believe that God would hurt me purposely, because it hurt. So,
Exactly, and so many things happen in life. God, we have free will and we make our choices in life, and things happen. We can't be pointing things on God allowed this or God did this. It's, God's always there, but we walk our own, So,
It's comforting though. It's comforting to say, maybe God allowed them to not be there for me so that I could hear him. Or, sometimes people would say, God took away every support and I could only rely on him. And we learn to rely on him in those moments. Not that we don't need human support, but we realize that there's none coming, and we're just gonna have to lean on him. And so we learn to lean on him. And as I'm talking, I'm feeling my tummy. When we moved to Wales, the children and I, Glenn was my husband. For those who don't know, was still where we were moving from, and we were on our own. And that silence was really, really dark. Not dark in the way of depression, but dark in the way of intense loneliness. It wasn't nice. It wasn't nice at all. And there were people who could have sat with us, could have been with us, and they didn't. And there was a couple times throughout when he went on missionary work where the silence happened again. And yet I learned how to lean on God in those moments. I learned how to pray. The children and I connect, and I used the time well. Doesn't mean that I didn't need though. Did God make them not do it? I don't know. I just think lots of people can't hear him.
Yeah. I've been through a similar experience as well. Where I feel like I had a hell of a lot of silence around me, in my circle of support. And that was actually when Christ Therapy started, because I did literally just have to just lean upon God and just hope that he could fill that space of emptiness that I had at that time. And I felt a lot of anger in the silence for me. I felt frustrated, I felt betrayed, I felt isolated. And I had to go through a long process myself in counseling, in Bible study, in prayer. And that's what got me through. So it's like, I am happy to have, I don't know, kind of matured in some way or healed at that time. But I wouldn't want to go through that again. Me personally, I wouldn't.
So here's what I hear. Like, your maturity, emotionally and spiritually, helped you turn to him in those moments. So I'm thinking of the people who don't have that level of maturity emotionally and spiritually, and don't know how to do the holding on and to get the support from. And then they go, well, there's no support at church. Church don't support you. Church people are there, because we hear those stories. So that's what I'm thinking. I think if we know how to hear him, he will direct us to the people who need us.
Yeah.
Simone says, this is Simone's perspective on Lewis's question. Or I think God uses our circumstances to teach us and bless us. He can use these circumstances to lead us onto the path he wants us on. It's true.
Yeah, more of a blessing rather than,
So then if somebody's here and is feeling alone and is feeling like nobody's coming, God is not listening to me, he's not hearing me, I've asked him and asked him and asked him to send someone, and he doesn't send anyone, I can't hear him, I'm frustrated, I'm giving up. What could we, because that silence, that kind of silence, and they're not seeing the spiritual teaching in that. They're not seeing that, oh, maybe he wants me to lean on him, because they're thinking, I'm leaning and nothing's happening and I need you to do this. That can be tough. That can be tough to do. What can we help that person with who isn't seeing the teachable spiritual lesson in the silence at the moment, in nobody coming? They're angry, they're bitter, and they're struggling.
They can reach out, hopefully, to someone, someone who they trust, someone who cares, someone who they can. I don't know. I do feel like that could lead on to many other problems, many other difficulties. So I think getting that space where it's safe to do that would be good for them. Yeah. What do you think, Joanna? Like, what do you think they could do?
Yeah, as Simone said, waiting can be difficult. Waiting can be really difficult. It's really hard in those moments when you're waiting, when you're when you're needing something, when you're needing people, and nobody comes. I read something today where a woman, was it yesterday, a woman shared that she lost her husband, she had 4 children, and there was no support from her church, but there was support from work. And but she really wanted support. So in those times it can be very challenging to hold on to faith, to believe that God can hear me, to believe that He's answering me. Because loneliness, because what we have to remember in those times when somebody's alone, loneliness is just, it's another layer and another thing to deal with and to work through. So while everybody else is silent and we're lonely, that is crippling. So as you say, Natalia, I think if there's somebody here listening and this is your story and you've waited and you may think, yeah, I can learn in the silence, I can learn to hear God's voice, but I've been trying and I've been praying and the loneliness is too much, I can't cope. I say reach out for help. Reach out, Natalia, Christ Therapy, Wounds to Scars, join a community of people who are healing, who can understand where you are and help you. Reach out to somebody in your church. If you're a church person, reach out to your GP for counseling. I call the Samaritans, they're excellent listeners, or a prayer line, something like that can, somebody in the moment that will just listen to you talk about where you are and how you're feeling.
Yeah, getting it out, just
having
that space to actually to break the silence,
yeah
because it's not a nice place to be. It's not.
No. And when you're dealing with a challenge for a long time and you just want somebody to, you want to hear God like I'm hearing you, like stand beside me and talk to me, tell me. And, the person coming would represent, okay, I'm hearing. And when nothing happened, that can be a challenging place. I know it's a place of, as Lois suggests, hearing Him, holding on to Him, becoming stronger in Him. It really is that kind of journey. So if you don't know anybody to reach out to, get out your journal and write about how you're feeling. Journal about it. Write prayer journals about it. Do it every day. Like, how do I feel today? Make it like a set time. I'm going to journal at 12 o'clock every day. Light my candle, have my glass of water. I love cinnamon candles. They just smell so delicious. So, get some cinnamon candles from Home Bargains if you're in the UK. Good price. And, get your journal and your pen and just sit. Don't go with what you're going to write yet, but just write from your belly, put words to the feeling from your belly and write that. Don't judge what you're writing. Don't judge what you're thinking. Don't judge how you're feeling. Just write from there. And after that, make it a 10-minute slot. After that 10-minute, close your journal, out your candle, and go for a walk. If you can, So make that into what you do. And when you go back through that a month later or 2 months later, you really begin to see the change that happened in you. You begin to see, oh, this is where God showed up. This is what He did. Because sometimes when we're in it, we can't see because we're too much in it and it's too painful to see.
Yeah. And anyone who's out there that's not a writer, you can also get your phone out and do a voice note or a video.
Yes.
One time I was so stressed. I feel like it was the most stressful time of my whole entire life. I couldn't get through to my counselor. I was literally praying and crying. And it's like I just had no peace. There was no one that I could call, nobody. And literally I took out my phone and I just started recording myself. And I wept and I spoke and I let it all out. And it's like I just felt a sense of peace after that. And I managed to go to bed and sleep. So like Joanna's saying, journaling can be in many ways, So anyone who's out there that don't, pick up a pen and write or type, you can always use your voice note or video as well, if you're comfortable with that.
Good ones. Simone said, when I was very ill, and near death, I became angry with God for not hastening my healing. When God worked, however, it was amazing and it was rapid. I just found the waiting very hard. I'm so glad he worked, Simone. I'm so glad he did.
Bless you, Simone. You're here now to share this with us, and it sounds like it really was a difficult time for you. So I'm so happy to hear that you're not in that place anymore, and that, you know, bless you.
Yeah, found the waiting hard. I find waiting hard sometimes too. It's just like, just do it now. Please do it now. That's true, Michaela. He is. Nikki Marr says, I'm finding that it's in the waiting we learn and grow. That's true. There are opportunities for growth in the waiting.
Yeah.
But it's hard. I think we can all agree. Yes. You're in agreement that way, especially when it's something that you really, really, really want. So now I suppose we're kind of transition onto God being silent, and how we manage his silence.
Yeah. As you guys are speaking there, you know, in the comments, I'm thinking about with Joseph now. Like when Joseph, he went to jail for something that he never, basically became a slave for something that he never did. And then he was freed. So it's like God came through, like the silence was over and God came through. And then he was faithful to God. And then he got chucked back in jail again after Potiphar's wife tried to, you know, come to him. And he was in silence again, like for a long time. Like he had a lot of waiting to do. And I'm not undermining in no way, shape, or form in anyone's feelings, but this is what's just come to mind as I'm thinking the waiting time is so hard sometimes. It's a real patient work, and it can be very, very distressful. But like that lady, the lady you just commented, it's hard, but a lot of growth can happen in that time too. A lot.
Do you think that? I think anyway. For me, that's when I need people. I know how to lean on God. I know how to hold on to Him. But the growing for me is when I know somebody is with me and they understand that I'm waiting and it's hard for me.
Okay.
That I can have some empathy. Like, yeah, Joe, that's hard. I understand that. So I have agreement that this is a hard period. I'm not rushing myself through it. I am waiting, but somebody is waiting with me, knowing that it's tough, but I'm gonna wait with you. But I know that this must be hard for you, but I'm waiting with you.
Yeah.
You know, like when we're interceding for people, if they're ill or they need a job and it's taking long and it's hard, I know that it's hard. I'm with you. It's a tough period for you. It's a tough time, but I'm with you. I find that useful, and it helps me know that I'm not alone, know that I'm not just being a spoiled child, you know, at God. I'm not being stroppy. It's somebody's agreeing that, yeah, this is difficult, this is hard, when I'm being empathized with. I find that useful for me.
Do you know what, Joanna? Can I just say this quickly before I forget? You know, when you were just saying that, you know what analogy came to my mind? You know, when you're growing plants outside and they can kind of droop, and then you get like a stick and you attach it to the stick and it just helps it to just stay up while it's growing. So to me, like some people are blessed to be able to, you know, be a one-man soldier and conquer on with the Lord, and they're okay, you know, but not everybody's built like that. Some people do need community or need some support, you know, some human support to be with them. Even with Moses, Moses needed his brother to go and stand before Pharaoh. He couldn't go on his own. He went with his brother. His brother was beside him at that time. So everybody's circumstances is different. But for me personally, like when you're thinking of that, I was just thinking of the plant. That's what helped it to grow, you know? It helps it. So just pointing that out there.
Yeah, good. And I suppose we have to know ourselves, and that's why with Lewis's question, I'm like, I couldn't agree for me. That's not what I needed. But maybe that would be for somebody else. But I grow when I know somebody is going, yeah. So it's not in my head. Yeah, this is hard. So I'm realizing the waiting is to help us develop patience, because it's patience of the saints that enable us to win the battle. The patience leads us to
trust in God.
To trust in God, I imagine. I imagine to trust in God, yeah. And she says, I love that analogy because we need community. We need community. And we were created for connection. We were created for connection. I love that analogy of the stakeholder of the STEM. Absolutely. We were created for connection. Community is important. And I suppose we can end where we begun, like, silence, how silence can help communities to heal. So while the person is going through the challenge, you don't have to fix it, tell them how to feel about the waiting. Just be with them while they wait. Like, I'm sorry, I understand that must be difficult for you. I don't know what to do to help you, but I can sit with you while you go through this tough thing.
Yeah.
That would communicate a lot of empathy. All right, so I just shared what I need when tough times are happening. I need somebody to walk with me, and I need somebody to come in agreement that it's hard. They don't have to say anything, because I don't need solutions. And that's not what I need from people when I share. I don't need solutions. I just need you to hear me. I need to be heard. So you can sit in silence with me. Well, I like to give homework, Natalia. You can, as we're closing out, I want you to think about, if you don't journal by writing, journal. Natalia gave a suggestion around talking. Think about what you need when there's silence. What do you need when you're waiting on God for something? How can the community help you? What would you need from them? Do you know if they met that need? Would you know that need is met? Because sometimes we don't know what we need, Natalia. So even if we receive it, we wouldn't know that we've received it. So what would you need? Would silence work for you? Do you want somebody to come and sit with you and not say anything? Would you rather they say something? What would work for you? So something for you to think about this week.
Yeah, and that what you just said as well there, Joanna. What do you need? Ask yourself, what do I need at that time? Then you can try to communicate that to people around you. Because loads of times when I ask people, what do you need? They'll go, I don't know. And then I'm thinking, well, if you don't know, then how can your loved ones know? You have to know what you need in order to get that support, to get that help at that time.
Yeah, that's it. For the help to be meaningful as well. So it's important that we know what we need. All right. I think this went where it was supposed to go. Thank you so much for your questions, for your comments, for every single one of them. We appreciate them.
Yeah, and guys, thank you for staying with us and for all your interaction. It's been good. I've really enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you. We've gone more than an hour. So we're coming on here every Friday evening to just do the therapy room. If there's anything special that you want us to talk about, do let us know, and we can talk about it here. Send us messages via our website around topics that you want us to talk about. Naomi says, love this space. I love that you love it, Naomi. I love that you love it. We love that you love it. We love doing it. I'm glad that you're here. So if there's anything that you want us to talk about, go deeper in, just to help you grow and heal, please let us know. Remember that we have we're going to the Zoom room for those who are part of our community to go deeper into these questions or to talk some more about it. We will put the link below the video over the weekend so you can have access and you can learn more about that, so you can join us in the Zoom room later as well. Do you have anything coming up that we can attend or dive into, Joanna, so we can further develop? Yes, our conference is coming up April 8 and 9. I will put the link below the video tomorrow evening or Sunday so that you can please come back and you can learn more. Everything about our conference on our website, or it's on this page. It's on YouTube on our the Stories That Shape Us podcast that I post every day. It's there. But yeah, we always have stuff going on to support people as they heal. All right. Anything you want to say before we go, Natalia?
I was just thinking for next week, I guess we'll share the flyer for that in the week. For the title, should we just wait for the flyer to come out, or?
Yeah. We never know beforehand what the title's going to be. We'll never know beforehand what we're going to talk about. The Lord will send it. If you have something specific, then let us know. Let's work through this thing here in the therapy room. Let's talk through it, and we'll invite your questions on that. So, yeah. I wonder. We mentioned needs today. Like, what do you need, and how would you know if you've received what you need? And I wonder if we could take that to the therapy room. What do you think?
I think it is a very important subject because it leads to so many stuff, and I feel like it's the foundation of communication. You need to know what your needs are in order to communicate them. So it would definitely be a good idea to bring it here. Maybe we could talk
about how would I know if I'm comforted? If I don't know what comfort is for me, or if it's even a need, how would I know if I'm comforted? I wouldn't know. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us in the therapy room this evening. We really appreciate you. I do. Every single question, every single comment that was posted. We appreciate you. Appreciate that you stay with us. And we hope that you'll join us next week, Friday evening at 8 p.m. as we go into the therapy room. And we're going to talk about needs. What are those? Does everybody have them? How can we know what ours are? And how do we ask for them to be met? Sometimes people ask me that. What if they say no, Joanna? How do we do that? Does God care about them? And how does that connect to healing? And is it selfish that we have needs? Should we, all of those things we'll talk about next week. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your weekend. And we'll see you next week here in the therapy room. Don't forget to like the video, share it still, so those who didn't watch it live can watch the replay. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications so you know when we're live next week, so you can come. Take care.
Bye.